So failed Gorton and Denton candidate Matt Goodwin has released a new book called Suicide of a Nation, Immigration, Islam and Identity. And once again, showing that the right wing are obsessed with identity politics. Yet his book is complete bullshit, and he's been called out for spreading misinformation and lies, and potentially using AI slop. Now, before we delve in, he tweeted this, which I thought was very funny. We are now number 5 of all books on Amazon. No major publisher, deliberately, they would have censored me. No BBC coverage. No establishment behind me. Just the people wanting to know the truth. I will tell you the truth. This is what's happening to your country. So by the way, it doesn't take that much to hit the Amazon charts. I mean, literally anyone can start an account and post their own material. It's no feat. And what's hilarious is he says, there's no major publisher behind it. And then he puts in brackets, well, that was deliberate because, you know, he claims they would censor him. And it's literally doing this meme. And it's the Katie Hopkins meme when she's like, what it feels like to be a white conservative. And then someone said, this is a perfect metaphor because this is Katie Hopkins putting a target on her own head. And it's like, well, why have you deliberately not used a publisher to then turn around and say, because they would have censored me? He chose not to use a publisher on his own accord. And the claim that he wouldn't be able to get one is obviously bullshit. Then he says the BBC gave him no coverage of the book. Why would the BBC cover this, right? Are they now like obligated to write a story on every new release Matt Goodwin has on a book? I mean, he's such a dumbass. Then finally he says the establishment aren't behind him. I mean, he stood as a candidate for the billionaire party, works for GB News, which is owned by a multi-millionaire, I think probably billionaire now, Paul Marshall. Matt Goodwin is literally the establishment. But anyway, onto him being caught out and exposed. So commentator Andy Twelves, friend of the show, by the way, I think he's great and I have a lot of respect for him. He's always on right-wing media, destroying the right. And he bought his book and found a bunch of lies, misinformation, and called him out. Exclusive, Matt Goodwin's new book, Suicide of a Nation, Immigration, Islam, Identity, is out now. And I'm only 5 chapters in, and I've found a huge amount of what appears to be false quotes and basic misinterpretations of data that appear to be AI hallucinations. Matthew, can you explain the claims you made in the book that I've outlined in the below threads? Now look, I'm not going to go through the entire thread, but 12's found 15 claims by Matt Goodwin in his book, which has been shown to be either unevidenced, misinformation, or straight up lies. Claim 1. In one year 1 classroom in Bradford, only 4 of 28 pupils spoke English as their first language. Teachers report spending large amounts of time simply mediating between dozens of languages, making normal teaching almost impossible and slowing down the rate of progress for everybody. Reality. I cannot find any evidence of this claim at all. I checked local and national news and his own Twitter page. I believe, from the lack of referencing and the way it's written, to be an AI hallucination. Claim 2. In 2019, BBC West Midlands highlighted schools where children speak more than 30 different languages, making normal teaching almost possible. Teachers often feel they are no longer running a school, but a translation service. Reality. I cannot find any evidence of BBC West Midlands writing this story at all. There is an article about a primary school from the Metro in 2021. He's linked it. And then says, BBC West Midlands does not exist. It's BBC Midlands. So I think it's clear that he's obviously used AI to research this, and AI's just thrown up BBC West Midlands when it doesn't exist as a branch. Claim 2.1. Teachers often feel they are no longer running a school but a translation service. One inspection report put it bluntly. Many pupils join the school with extremely limited English. This significantly slows the pace of learning. This is not multicultural harmony or enrichment. Reality. He links Ofsted and says, that's the school's Ofsted report page. That quote does not appear in any of the reports. There are things that are vaguely like that, but are always caveated with the exceptional progress that they make and how the school accommodates well. This, I believe, is another AI hallucination, or at the very best, a complete lie. I checked 2 other primary schools that vaguely fit the bill with media coverage on the amount of languages they spoke. Paget Primary Schools, English Martyrs Catholic Primary School, and neither had the quote on their Ofsted reports. Claim 13. The essence of a nation wrote the academic Walker Connor, is not the territory occupied, but the people who occupy it. To replace the people is to replace the nation. Reality, I cannot verify this quote or anything similar to it from Walker Connor or anyone else. I believe this is another AI hallucination. Claim 15. A society that cannot distinguish its friends from its enemies, Sir Roger Scruton warned, or that extends hospitality to those who despise its way of life, is a society that has lost the instinct for survival. That is what suicidal empathy has done to our leaders. Reality, this is part of Google's AI-generated summary of Roger Scruton's views, not an actual quote of his. And 12s also find this. Also, definitely not AI-generated the tagline and nicked it from Douglas Murray's much better written book from 2017, lol. I think it's clear that Matt Goodwin just prompted AI and went, look, I've got pre-existing biases towards particular things. Matt Goodwin is always banged on about the issues of multiculturalism, Islam, people speaking different languages, right? And he's put it into AI, probably went, find me examples of where this went wrong. And because AI, whether it's ChatGPT or other language models, they're not reliable. They often give you wrong information because all AI does is scour the internet and brings information back to you, but it can't distinguish between what's real and not real because obviously there's a lot of false information out there. There's a lot of blogs out there, for example, and right-wing media outlets that lie about certain things, and AI is just pulling that information and pulling other information. You cannot rely on that. Even when you use quotes, if you say, AI, pull me a quote of this particular person on this particular topic, often they are completely wrong quotes or an amalgamation of different quotes, which is why that quote he used was like partly true but partly false. Like, Goodwin is not even doing basic research. He can't be bothered. And clearly, he has no original thought. Now, quick update, just as I was editing this video, I find this. Someone tweeted, got to say, if the research of Goodwin's book was conducted mainly by AI, then he's done a terrible job of hiding it. And it's a screenshot of the sources in Matt Goodwin's book, 3 and 4. This refers to state-funded schools and nurseries, schools, pupils and their characteristics, 5th of June 2025. White British children are minority at 1 in 4 schools. Daily Telegraph, 7th of June 2025, available online. But look at the links. At the end of the link, when you copy and paste a link from ChatGPT, it adds the source, chatgpt.com. So we can confirm that at least part of his book, he's literally used ChatGPT. So John Merrick then says in the tweet underneath, look at those UTM codes which tell a website where the link referral came from, ChatGPT. There are only 12 footnotes in the entire book. 5 are to Goodwin's own Substack, where you can't use yourself as a source. And then 2 have embedded UTM codes that reveal they came from ChatGPT searches. And now Matt Goodwin has responded and said this. The left are having a meltdown over Suicide of a Nation, cherry picking, misrepresenting, and hate bombing the Amazon reviews. Why? Because they think they own and control the public debate. Their default mode, whenever a book figure comes along that dismantles their worldview, is to try and discredit and attack the person, not the argument. Only it won't work this time. There is a reason Suicide of a Nation is number 3 on Amazon, and it struck a chord with so many. Because people see through the gaslighting and want to be told the truth about what is happening to their own country and their own people. Everything in this book is based on official UK census data and the very same projections that are used by the Office for National Statistics. Every single person knows the data, knows that everything in this book is correct, even if they would rather not know about it or talk about it. The left don't want you to read it. They don't want you to know what is in the book because they do not want you to know what is happening around you. They do not want you to know the truth, which is why they work overtime to try and deflect and discredit anything that challenges their worldview. Is it really true what you say about this one school, they ask, knowing full well it is? Should we really care about the fact that some 5 million people in England cannot speak English or do not speak it as their main language, they ask, knowing full well this is a major problem? They are constantly trying to gaslight you. It is really simple. I've worked in the universities for 20 years. I saw the strategy up close. Only, unlike others, I refuse to be pushed aside. I refuse to let them dominate the public debate, which, by the way, is why I did not want this book to be published by a mainstream publisher. I could have easily gone down this road having written 2 national bestsellers, but I knew they would censor what I say. They would try to control and narrow the debate. This is why I deliberately stepped outside the narrow, stifling groupthink that Overton window, and this is why Suicide of a Nation is now selling out everywhere. So here's a challenge. Ignore the losers on the left who are trying to control and censor you once again. Read it for yourself and make up your own mind. Oh, wow, he is crashing out big time. First of all, how is the left trying to censor and control the debate? They are criticizing you. This is the thing, right? Have you noticed when it comes to the right wing, they can never, ever accept responsibility. It's always got to be some kind of exterior force. It's the left, it's this or that. No, you're getting review bombed because you used AI and you used ChatGPT to push misinformation. And by the way, even if everything was factually correct, which it isn't, but even if it was, people don't like AI. Right, you're supposed to be an academic. You just admitted that in that tweet. You're supposed to be an academic. You should know how to research, yet you've used AI to do so. That's why people are criticizing this book. And by the way, how are the left not wanting people to read the book? I mean, Andy 12's literally bought the book to have a look at it. He gave you money. What does that mean? Now, the reason why you haven't gone with a publisher, I'm pretty sure, is because you used AI. So a bunch of publishers have started pulling books after some books have been accused of using AI. So don't give us this bullshit that, oh, I didn't use a publisher because they'd be censoring me, as if publishers have been censoring right-wing books. I mean, please show me where right-wing books have been censored. No, I strongly suspect the reason why you didn't use a publisher is because you knew that after these allegations of AI, and not just allegations, I mean, there's literally a screenshot of your book which shows the source coming from ChatGPT, that a publisher might pull your book, and you were worried that was going to happen. So that's why you didn't use a publisher. Like, you cannot ever accept responsibility, and now you're trying to say that the left is trying to control the debate. Being criticized is not controlling the debate, right? Being criticized is being criticized. You wrote a shit book full of lies and people are laughing at you and now you're crashing out and it's fucking pathetic. Look, he's a professional liar. That's all he does. And I'm glad people are calling him out on his bullshit. But this is the modus operandi of the right wing. They just lie and lie and lie and lie. That's all they do. Don't get me wrong, the left will get things wrong, and don't get me wrong, there's probably some people on the left who might have lied about something. Everyone lies, right? But I'm telling you right now, like the right-wing machine, they operate on lies. I mean, the amount of times right-wing newspapers such as The Sun puts out a massive lie and smear of someone on their front page, only to retract it because they got caught out, but they put the correction on like page 17 in a small little sentence, because the point isn't to get away with a lie. Right? Lots of newspapers know they're going to be caught out. The point is to put out the misinformation, and that's already out there. So Matt Goodwin can create a book probably based on just AI, and it doesn't matter if he gets called out on the lies because he's already put that false information out there. And some people are going to gobble it up. But yes, I'm glad that people like Andy 12's is calling Matt Goodwin out on his complete bullshit, just like how Mehdi Hassan completely eviscerated Goodwin on immigrants in social housing.
You said on GB News, for example, falsely, and I quote, more than 50% of social housing in London is now occupied by people who are not British. This is not acceptable. Well, forget not being acceptable. It's not true.
I think it's about that. I think it's about 47, 48.
It's not actually. The percentage of people who are not British in London social housing is about 14%. No. 85% of people are British citizens.
No, so my view would be, in terms of housing, we're in the middle of a housing crisis. I think we should have a principle of national preference in our housing market.
We do. 85% of people in London are British who are in social housing. No, you falsely said that more than 50% are not British. That's false.
Mehdi Hassan uses real stats to expose Matthew Goodwin's claim as false. Goodwin is left with nothing but, I need to check the stats.
No, across the country, more generally.
Across the country, it's 90% according to the Ministry of Housing.
When we were allocating social housing, we also used to take into account things like commitment to the community, looking after property, etc. We don't really do that anymore.
That's a fair point. That's not what you said, though. I just want to go with what you said, Matt, with respect. More than 50% of social housing in London is now occupied by people who are not British. That is not true.
I'd need to look at the statistics.
We have the statistics. According to London government, the figure in London is 84%. According to the 2021 census data, only 14% of Londoners living in social housing did not hold a UK passport. This has been pointed out to you for the last year.
No, it hasn't.
In fact, you went back on GB News and corrected it and said 48% go to people who are headed by people who are not born in Britain, which is a different point. But you would accept the vast majority of people in social housing are British.
I'd need to look at the data.
I've got the data.
No.
It's right
But the fact that 48, I think the 48...
Copied and pasted.
I think
he's just a complete clown and grifter. But it's important not just to call these people out on lies, it's to embarrass them. Because as I said, there's so much misinformation out there. A lot of people will selectively use the information they want to confirm their already existing biases. So simply just saying that particular thing is wrong, this is the truth, that doesn't do it. You have to embarrass these people. Again, just like Mehdi Hassan did. People will watch that clip and see a man in Matt Goodwin confidently tell lies, just brought down a fucking peg or two. And embarrass. And that's what we need to do to our political enemies. Not just call them out on their lies, but make them look like fucking idiots. Because these people are lying to you, whilst Matt Goodwin says, this book is about truth. The guy can't even be bothered to do his own research. He's literally, seems like anyway, using AI to do it for him. But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if his book is true or not. He is pushing a political agenda, and that's all that matters. Now, I would suggest what he does with this new book is do what he did with one of his older ones.
Sit here and eat my book while you guys carry on. It's actually a hardback. There are lots of chemicals, but I've got to get through the whole thing, so